You're watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. Today, July 23rd, 2023, is Cambodia's 7th National Assembly election since the country introduced multi-party elections in 1993. Prime Minister Hun Sen will be one of just under 10 million registered voters expected to participate in today's election. He is returning to his home precinct in Tak Mau with his wife, First Lady Bun Rani, to cast their votes in today's election. His reigning Cambodian People's Party, or CPP, is one of 18 parties on this year's ballot, many of which only had their first National Assembly run in the last election held in 2018. NEC spokesperson Heng Putia said that over the last 3 weeks of the election campaign, 16 of the 18 parties have been campaigning at polling stations with lists of candidates. Noticeably absent from the election is the major opposition Candlelight Party, which was denied running this year based on insufficient paperwork. The party's efforts to protest the NEC's decision was met with a new law being passed earlier this month, which penalizes any person or party that discourages others from voting or encourages them to spoil their ballots. So far, 17 opposition members have been fined under the new law, in addition to having their voting rights and ability to run for office taken away for at least 20 years. Today, Cambodians will vote for a party rather than an individual. The winning party will then fill the 125 seats in the National Assembly, who will then confirm a prime minister. Currently, the CPP holds all 125 seats, in addition to all 58 seats in the Cambodian Senate. National Assembly elections are held every 5 years, while Senate seats are up for election every 6 years. In an interview with Chinese television station Phoenix News on Friday, Prime Minister Hun Sen hinted that his son, General Hun Manet, could be prime minister within the month, depending on the results of the election. He stressed that he would be the one to transfer his power to his successor, and that it would not be for his son's sake, but for the benefit of the nation, the people, and the peace of the country. Prime Minister Hun Sen has been running Cambodia for 38 years under the reigning Cambodian People's Party, and is one of the longest-serving world leaders. The Prime Minister met with a delegation of 85 of the 333 foreign observers at the Peace Palace yesterday. During the meeting, many of the observers praised the rapid growth of political and economic development, especially in regards to high-rise buildings and better living conditions. Following the observers' statements, the Prime Minister explained the election system in Cambodia, which is held regularly every 5 years. He insisted that it shows a country that practices democracy, where political parties have 5 years to prepare to participate in the election. The Prime Minister also praised Cambodia's current voting system, implemented under the Paris Agreement, which he credits for putting an end to the Khmer Rouge's power. We now have Anthony Ellis. News reporter Anthony Ellis is on the scene in Tak Mau, where the Prime Minister will be casting his vote today. He's been speaking with some international observers, and we'll get his take on what's going on. Hi, Anthony. Good morning.
This morning.
Yeah, great. How are you?
Yes. Yeah, good. Thank you. At the moment, at the Anuwat Burunami Hun Sen Primary School in Kandal Province. As you can see, people have starting to arrive. We've already done a couple of interviews with some observers here. We had a chance to meet with the Prime Minister of Guinea-Bissau, Prime Minister Nabim, and also Pakistani Senate.
Great. And so you've talked to a couple of the international observers. What are their take on the Cambodian election so far?
So far, they've been walking around. They've gone into the polling booth station, had a look around, and they've seen everything seems to be in order. People seem to be happy, and everything's going fine.
Okay, so I see a line of people behind you. How long are the lines today?
The line is just started to begin. It's not very long at the moment. As we know, the polling booths should be opening up any moment now, where people start going inside and vote. Last year with the Sangkrat elections, which were at the same spot, it did start to get busy between 7:30 and from there onwards. And at the moment, we're just still waiting for the Prime Minister to attend.
Okay, so polls open at 7. Do they go all day? Do people have all day to vote?
No, the polling booths shut down at 3 p.m. this afternoon, so they're open from 7 till 3, where everyone is given a chance. As you know, yesterday the Royal Government also provided 400 free buses to take people all over the provinces of Cambodia for free to be able to vote for this morning. Christian, now it looks like the Prime Minister has just arrived now, and so we'll just probably cut across and have a look as he comes out of his car and watch him going to vote.
Great. Thank you so much, Anthony. We'll catch up with you.
Thanks, Chris.
Among the international observers in today's election are Prime Minister of Guinea-Bissau, the Speaker of the Malaysian Parliament, and members of the Universal Peace Federation, International Association of Parliamentarians for Peace, among others. The government's Ministry of Information organized workshops for the observers, and so far everyone has seemed content that Cambodia is hosting a free and fair election. Yesterday morning, more than 400 buses transported citizens to the provinces free of charge so that they can vote today. The buses are scheduled to return citizens from the provinces to Phnom Penh tomorrow. The NEC made an appeal on Friday for all citizens, politicians, and media outlets to maintain order during the election. In that spirit, the sale and consumption of alcohol has been banned until tomorrow in an effort to prevent accidents and loss of public order. So right now we are watching the Prime Minister arrive with First Lady Bun Rani. That is the Member of Parliament from Pakistan who is here to observe the election. So it looks like the Prime Minister, like every Cambodian, has to go back to his hometown precinct to vote. And for the Prime Minister, that is in Takmau in the Kandal province. So he's just one of under 10 million registered voters expected to participate in today's election. He's returning to his home precinct with his wife to cast their votes in today's election. His reigning Cambodian People's Party, or CPP, is one of 18 parties on this year's ballot, many of whom only had their first National Assembly run in the last election held in 2018. NEC spokesperson Heng Putia said that over the last 3 weeks of the election campaign, 16 of the 18 parties have been campaigning at polling stations with lists of candidates. So we see people now registering or checking in to vote. They're being given their paper ballots. About 13 million paper ballots have been printed. And now we see the Prime Minister coming up to get his ballot. They'll be looking for his name. In Cambodia, the voter list has the name and photo of the voter. So they'll be looking for that to check off. And there are many international observers there to make sure that this process runs smoothly. So the NEC has printed 13 million paper ballots this year that have been distributed to the provinces, but only just under 10 million registered voters in Cambodia. The Prime Minister is now going to head to the voting booth. This year, the NEC is accepting a variety of markings on the ballot, from a check mark to a plus sign. Basically, anything that doesn't give away the voter's identity will be accepted on the ballot. The Cambodian People's Party is number 18 on the ballot. Out of 18 parties, it'll be the last one listed. I believe the first one is the Beehive Socialist Democrat Party. So we see the Prime Minister and his wife now heading to the booths, where they will put whichever symbol they like next to the party of their choosing. So he's heading now to cast his ballot in a secure box. Lots of media outlets, lots of observers there today. The Prime Minister has cast his ballot. He'll now dip his finger in the indelible ink that Cambodians use to prevent double voting, and also to show that they have voted. People will be showing their fingers off this week to show they have voted. starts out purple, but as our news reporter Anthony Ellis knows, it will be black by the end. So now First Lady Boon Rai will dip her finger in the ink to show she has voted. And that is the votes for the Prime Minister and his wife, First Lady Boon Rai. The polls today open at 7 a.m. and they will close at 3 p.m. It should give enough time for the 9.7 million registered Cambodians to head to the polls. They've been heavily encouraged this year. You see there, it lists the photo next to the name and the birthday of the people on the voting list. So now the Prime Minister will be awaiting the results of today's election. The numbers are counted throughout the day and released, and then will be confirmed by the National Election Committee later. So 13 million ballots have been printed by the NEC for the approximate 9.7 million registered voters in Cambodia. It is a right that they do hold dear here. It's not something they had until 1993 when the multi-party election system was put into place after signing the Paris Agreement. So not only will there be a checklist of voters to check off to see who's voted, but also those who have voted will have a stained finger, index finger for the week, to show that they have voted. So we've just seen the Prime Minister and his wife, First Lady Boon Rai, who have voted officially in the 7th National Assembly election. This is the 7th since the multi-party democracy was established in 1993. Over the last 3 weeks, 18 parties have been campaigning at polling stations and through the streets, handing out leaflets, canvassing door to door, and holding concerts and slideshows, basically just promoting their policies throughout the country. So we see the Prime Minister and his wife are now leaving. They'll be awaiting the election results for the day. The Cambodian People's Party currently has all 125 seats in the National Assembly, in addition to all seats in the Senate. So we will see how today's election turns out. There are approximately 333 international observers set to observe today's elections to ensure that they are indeed free and fair. Among them is the Prime Minister of Guinea-Bissau. There's a speaker from the Parliament of Malaysia. And today Anthony has spoken with another member of Parliament from Pakistan. In an interview with Chinese television station Phoenix News on Friday, Prime Minister Hun Sen hinted that his son, General Hun Manet, could be Prime Minister within the month, depending on the results of the election. He stressed that he would be the one to transfer his power to his successor, and that it would not be for his son's sake, but for the benefit of the nation, the people, and the peace of his country. Prime Minister Hun Sen has been running Cambodia for 38 years under the reigning Cambodians People's Party, making him one of the longest-serving leaders in the world. Over the weekend, the Prime Minister met with a delegation of 85 of the 333 foreign observers, especially at the Peace Palace yesterday, where he listened to people praise the growth of Cambodia's political and economic landscape. Following the observers' statements, the Prime Minister explained that in the election system in Cambodia, it's held every 5 years. So we've now got Anthony Ellis, who is talking to what appear to be some observers from Russia.
Please introduce yourself.
Yes,
Вас зовут?
I'm Andrei Maximov. I represent Civic Chamber of Russian Federation. It's a union of non-government organization in Russian Federation. It's special um, board Economic and Social Council in Russia. Uh, uh, we have the second observer mission in Cambodia from Russian Federation. The first mission was in 1918. Oh no! Oh, sorry. 2018, and now is the second. Мы приехали для наблюдения на выборах позавчера. К сожалению, мы не смогли наблюдать за всем избирательным процессом на стадии выдвижения кандидатов, на стадии, соответственно, ведения предвыборной агитации. Но мы видим, что в выборах принимает участие 18 политических партий. Достаточно четко соблюдался день тишины, то есть мы не видели нарушений предвыборной агитации, которые были вчера.
Yes. We came only 2 days ago, and we are a short-term mission. That's why we cannot judge the whole process, starting from the candidate nomination, voter registration that took place months before that. Still, we observed the silence day, which was enforced strictly by the government, and the political parties adhered to the national regulations, and so far we have not seen or confirmed any transgressions, but it's just the beginning of election day, so we have to see further during the day. And of course, the post-electoral phase is very important for us to observe.
Мы, конечно же, с глубоким уважением относимся к истории, к культуре Камбоджи и к тем традициям, в том числе, которые сложились за последние десятилетия здесь в части голосования, проведения выборов.
So of course we have deep respect to the history of Cambodian people, culture, and the traditions, also political ones, that have been generated or just occurred, just produced by the society in the last decades. And of course the democratic setup built here in the last decades. We understand how it's undergoing its transformation from the civil war phase to the establishment of a stable liberal democratic regime.
Мы видим, что здесь за последние 30 лет сложилась стабильная политическая система. Каждые 5 лет проводятся выборы с достаточно активным представительством самых разных политических сил. И хотя мы не можем давать политических оценок тому, что происходит здесь, мы будем скрупулезно и четко следить за соблюдением процедуры голосования на протяжении того периода, что мы находимся, в частности, сегодня с 7 утра и до окончания подсчета голосов.
So we have seen the period of political stability in the last 30 years after the Civil War, and definitely as a civil society organization, after all they're a civil society organization, they are not about politics, they are more about electoral technologies and electoral solutions applied by the responsible state agencies like the National Election Committee. And basically we are to observe how transparent and how technically accurate the voting process will occur on election day, which means how the ballots cast, how being ballot count, and of course the tabulation of results after the election day is over. And definitely we will comment on that later on, of course, on 24th on the press conference.
Мы видим, что для избирателей представлена на избирательном участке достаточно большая удобная система информирования о том, как голосовать. Это удобные схемы, фотографии, открыто представлен список избирателей. И есть даже некоторые моменты, которые мы бы отметили, неиспользуемы в других странах. Например, мы впервые видим о том, что есть специальный сервис для слабовидящих граждан, которые могут ознакомиться с избирательным бюллетенем с помощью шрифта Брайля. Это очень интересно, и мы надеемся, что вот такого рода практика, она не только активно используется на разных избирательных участках, на всех избирательных участках Камбоджи, но и найдет какое-то применение, может быть, и в других странах.
So basically we can notice that there are many schematics and information for the voters to understand how to proceed with the voting day, basically how to cast ballots, how to register at the desk and so forth. Which is very convenient, and most importantly we have noticed very innovative, we would say, practice such as using the braille fonts for the blind people. We have never seen anything like that in any other countries. We've been to more than 15 countries so far, and we actually consider this useful practice not only to be implemented here on election day, but also finding its place in everyday life for the people with disabilities.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Enjoy the next couple of days. Yes, thank you very much. Okay, good boy. Thanks for interpreting.
Have a nice day.
So that was Anthony Ellis speaking to some Russian observers at the Takmao precinct for the 7th National Assembly election, which is being held today. Just under 10 million people in Cambodia are registered to vote. The Prime Minister being among them. We've just seen him cast his vote in Takmao with his wife, First Lady Bunrani. His reigning Cambodian People's Party, or CPP, is one of 18 parties on this year's ballot, many of which only had their first National Assembly run in the last election held in 2018. NEC spokesperson Heng Putia said that over the last 3 weeks of the election campaign, 16 of the 18 parties have been campaigning at polling stations with lists of candidates. Noticeably absent from the election is the major opposition Candlelight Party, which was denied running this year based on insufficient paperwork. The party's efforts to protest the NEC's decision was met with a new law being passed earlier this month, which penalizes any person or party that discourages others from voting or encourages them to spoil their ballots. So far, 17 opposition members have been fined under the new law, in addition to having their voting rights and ability to run for office taken away for at least 20 years. You can be sure that today at the polls, authorities and observers will be checking for people who are discouraging voting or encouraging others to spoil their ballots. So right now on the scene, we have another interview with a Cambodian voter. We will head over to her now.
ប្រហែលទេតែ50ជាងបោះឆ្នោតម្ដងហើយតាំង93មកអូនចាច្រើនដងចាមីងតែតែមកជាប់រហូតយល់មិនដែរចំពោះការបោះឆ្នោតជាអ្វីដែលមិនបានមីងអាយុ50ជាងហើយនៅតែចង់មកបោះឆ្នោតចង់មកថាអានេះជាសិទ្ធិរបស់យើងចាជាសិទ្ធិរបស់យើងដើម្បីពេញតាប់កិច្ចជាពលរដ្ឋអញ្ចឹងហ៎អូនចាមីងមានកូនប៉ុន្មានដែរកូន3សិទ្ធិគ្រប់អាយុបោះឆ្នោតអត់ទេអត់នៅក្មេងៗចាអាណត្តិក្រោយប្រហែលជាដល់មួយហើយមួយទៀតទៅជប៉ុនអត់បានបោះទៅបោះហើយមានអារម្មណ៍មិនដែរមានអារម្មណ៍សប្បាយរីករាយចាចាអត់បានយើងសប្បាយរីករាយបាយទេថាយើងបានពេញតួនាទីជាពលរដ្ឋចាក៏មាន
So the EAC News team is on site in Takmao in the Kandal province, where Prime Minister Hun Sen has just cast his ballot, along with First Lady Bunrani. Earlier this week, Prime Minister Hun Sen did hint that his son, General Hun Manet, could be taking over as Prime Minister within the month. He said this would be not for his son's sake, but for the benefit of the people, the nation, and the peace of the country. Prime Minister Hun Sen has been running Cambodia for 38 years under the reigning Cambodian People's Party and is one of the longest-serving world leaders. So right now on the scene in Takamo, we've got reporter Anthony Ellis, reporter Hun Srewat, who is interviewing voters at the polling station. We'll hand it over to him now.
អ៊ំឈ្មោះអីដែរអ៊ំខ្ញុំឈ្មោះស្វាយសារ៉េតអាយុប៉ុន្មាន72ឆ្នាំបាទនៅតែកម្លាំងនៅងំសងបាទអ៊ំទៅតែបោះឆ្នោតហើយមានអារម្មណ៍មិនដែរខ្ញុំនៅពេលមកបោះឆ្នោតគឺមានអារម្មណ៍សប្បាយបាទហេតុអីបានយើងសប្បាយបាទសប្បាយដោយសារខ្ញុំរើសអ្នកដឹកនាំដែលត្រឹមត្រូវដើម្បីរកសន្តិភាពធ្វើការអភិវឌ្ឍបាទអ៊ំបោះឆ្នោតតាំងពី93មកបាទតាំង93អត់ដែរខានទេបាទយល់មិនដែរចំពោះសិទ្ធិបោះឆ្នោតរបស់យើងការយល់ឃើញបងការបោះឆ្នោតរបស់ខ្ញុំគឺមានឃើញថាឆន្ទៈរបស់ខ្ញុំគឺដើម្បីជួយប្រទេសជាតិឲ្យបានរីកចម្រើនហើយបោះឆ្នោតឲ្យអ្នកដឹកនាំគឺដូចបោះឆ្នោតឲ្យខ្លួនឯងដែរដើម្បីបានខ្លួនឯងបានសុខសប្បាយបាទសុខសប្បាយមករហូតបាទបន្តមកគ្រប់គ្រងមកបោះឆ្នោតបាទមានខ្លះគេប្រឆាំងការបោះឆ្នោតអីដល់អ៊ំយល់មិនដែរការប្រឆាំងគឺសម្រាប់ខ្លួនឯងព្រោះអត់បានជួយប្រទេសជាតិទេគឺធ្វើឲ្យប្រទេសជាតិរីករាយទៅវិញបាទអរគុណច្រើនបាទអរគុណបាទលី ឈ្មោះនិងទូនាទីបងបាទខ្ញុំបាទឈ្មោះផាន់រដ្ឋិពលជាប្រធានគណៈកម្មការរៀបចំការបោះឆ្នោតខេត្តកណ្ដាលបាទឃើញការបោះឆ្នោតនៅខេត្តកណ្ដាលរហូតមកដល់ម៉ោងប្រហែលទៅមិនដែរបាទគិតមកដល់ត្រឹមម៉ោងនេះគឺដំណើរការប្រតិទិននៃការបោះឆ្នោតបាទសម្រាប់មណ្ឌលបោះឆ្នោតខេត្តកណ្ដាលប្រព្រឹត្តទៅដោយរលូនបាទគ្រប់បាទមានប្រជាពលរដ្ឋជួយមកបោះឆ្នោតយ៉ាងច្រើនកកទៀតបាទសម្រាប់បញ្ហាសន្តិសុខចរាចរណ៍គឺប្រព្រឹត្តទៅដោយរលូនគ្មានបញ្ហាអ្វីគួរកត់សម្គាល់ឡើយបាទអរគុណបាទសូមជម្រាបថាមន្ត្រីបម្រើឲ្យការបោះឆ្នោតនៅថ្ងៃនេះគឺជារដ្ឋមន្ត្រីការបោះឆ្នោតបាទគាត់ត្រូវក្រោកតាំងពីម៉ោង4បាទមករៀបចំទីកន្លែងនិងម៉ោង5ទៅទទួលយកបាទសម្ភារៈសំខាន់3មុខគឺមានស្លឹកត្នោតបាទមានត្រាសម្ងាត់និងទឹកខ្មៅលុបលាងមិនជ្រះពីគណៈកម្មការគុំសង្កាត់រៀបចំការបោះឆ្នោតរបស់គាត់បាទអញ្ចឹងនៅពេលដែលគាត់យកមកបានហើយយ៉ាងយូរត្រឹមម៉ោង5កន្លះគាត់មកដល់ទីតាំងការបោះឆ្នោតរបស់គាត់តែម្ដងដើម្បីរៀបចំនីតិវិធីទៅតាមនីតិវិធីណាបាទជាបន្តទៅតាមបទជានីតិវិធីនៃការបោះឆ្នោតបាទប្រព្រឹត្តទៅដោយរលូនបាទយើងមកដល់មានតំណាងគណៈបញ្ញោបាយអង្គការអ្នកសង្កេតការផ្សេងគាត់តាមមើលដំណើរការនៃការប្រព្រឹត្តទៅនៃការបោះឆ្នោតរបស់យើងតាំងពីការបង្ហាញស្លឹកឆ្នោតបង្ហាញហឹបឆ្នោតណាបាទគ្រប់ត្រាសម្ងាត់បង្ហាញដល់ភ្នាក់ងារគណៈបញ្ញោបាយទាំងអស់ឲ្យសង្កេតឃើញឲ្យសង្កេតមើលព្រមទាំងអ្នកសារព័ត៌មានបាទថតរាល់គ្រប់រូបភាពដែលយើងបានបង្ហាញដែរបាទ ba ca giả lại dương chập đàm ba đầm nào cả bó chân áo cứ mong phải ปิดrất bắt mong bay rồi xìa vào ba miền phải chưa porot mà bà to nơi khung bạc về mình đồ bó chân áo cả lại bó chân áo ní cứ bắt đầu mong bay hai nơi miền bó chân áo cứ nãy cam cả lại bó chân áo lúc promo là tại chuyện ban chưa porot lúc bị cào mà mồn bà mà mồn chắc quan nơi đã bà to là hốt từ đó bắt men tại dương bắt bà tay nè mau cào mong bay dương đào châu chùa đi bà đào châu chùa thì tiền chẳngได้แบบนี้ในขนมเมาใบขนมชัวนะคือกวาดอาจบอสนาดก็แม่แต่เมาใบก็ได้บ่าแต่พอเมาใบเนี่ยเมาหดเซงมาโชว์คือมันอันเนี่ยเราโชว์เลยทีทุกวันในขนมเหมือนโดนในขนมสถานีบอสนาดมุกการไล่บอสนาได้บ่าไปเป็นทางขนมในการบอสในการไล่บอสนาได้จังกวาดอาจโชว์บอสนาได้บ่าบ่านี่เต็มที่ในการรับสลักขนมในปีละเมาใบยังจับในการchẳng như chập đam bầm pin tụm rung bài bát xinh xinh thì mỗi dương bầm pin tụm rung bài bát đập mũi xuống mũi từ lưỡi cả đã bát xanh và anh văn đi tây thì này cả bát nâng hai bầm pin tụm rung nâng hai dương chập đam và bầm pin tụm rung và dương chập đam bật kè hấp sao nào nữa dương bật xe lê xe ấy trong tơ hái dương mà điệp chậm và tụm rung hai điệp chậm bật và ban sủng coi lại ta sẽ là khi nào mình bàn ca nữa nữ nâng hai nâng và cái hai tụm rung đọc xôn tụm bay hay nâng cái đá tiếng cha thông là mấy khu sủng đấy khi nào nâng đấy hai dương điệp tốc từ tam plong đấy và ca lại rọp sẽ khi nào và đấy chẳng plong với cứ khóc này đấy chẳng khóc này chẳng điệp tam plong hái bà dương bà lược vô kè hấp rồi bao hấp khi nào nó mà đặt một đặt bạn dù bài nữa chẳng cái tam bà cắt sau khung á bà cắt sau khung cắt đây hết mà dương chặt bà sạch sao đấy chặt cái nắng rồi bây giờ tiêm toàn chùm luôn ấy giờ mua nhà mà bạc mua là nó trong tay hời bà trong dương chặt hết thì cô cùng lúc mà cầm lúc nó mà phải cam cặp là sao nó cặp chứ nó tiền bà cặp bà hai tiền mười tá là nó muốn miên là sao bà ở với cái ai là sao đó đấy giờ là cái đá so là sẽ giờ ốp co anh xem để các anh cái vô trình đấy dương vô chân dương cột mà nút thay làm như vậy đấy chân dương ba chập đàm hài nó thêm ca và lấy nó chập đàm mới hái bà cả xâm lý quan rồi đặt bạc to bà còn hàng trắng dương miền mình tây là nơi khu đặt không đất và khu xâm lý là to mùi đầm lầy bà nè mùi tiết lúc khu đà nút tiếng khu cả đọc xôn bảy nó khu đà bà lê ca chân khu bà chân khu đôi dương lịch bà chẳng khu rồi chẳng đó bà chẳng những anh đi thi tây bị thi là hốt ở đó chóp đầm nào cá group sẽ lật cháo đại miên nó không học mình tận này nè bà sắm khăn cả đạp bàn vô bái bà quan đơn nó quan mơ chẳng tới bà quan ai bà sân quan sẽ khơi miên cam ca và ca bao bao sự phép lên sẽ lật cháo đòi bị thiên ca lại nâng mình trong tất quát ai to bà nè ai to bà chẳng bà sân thì quan to bà sẽ lật cháo nam muối để như bật thiên cất mưa thao viên mình báo nó còn tung mà lại sân quát to thì tây bị thi nó tiệt lẩu đó chóp 210 phần đúng sẽ lập nào đại dương miền ca song sấy đó bạn chập đàm 10 đấy chập đàm 10 ai mơ bàn thì ai mơ bàn bà ai sẽ mơ bàn bà chứ trong họ ấy thì về lên sòng ngát đây về nữa đấy bà lên sòng ngát đây dân ấy bà chẳng biết có ai mơ bàn bà tay chừng ai tới ai có xong rung tết rồi cam phiêu nè xa qua miền á không ấy rung khan đó là cá rọp sẽ là nó được bao mình trai cả lại nữa đấy bàช่วงตามระยะเปประมาณนี้ว่ายังมาดอเปนี่คือยังตามระบายการบรรดาครองสกต่างอักน้ำไข่กระดาคือดำเนินการประพฤติโดยรุนบาปเชื่อพรัตเตบาชนาอย่างชราญก่อจังอัดเมียนปัญหาไว้แต่กลัวกอดกลัวเลยปัญหาสันสกยังมีเงี้ยสันสกนึกน้องกายละนึกบาน้องกายละนึกกายไหลบานังกายกายไหลเมียนกรุบกรอนบาจังปัญหาสันสกสนับพนวบประพฤติโดยรุนไปเชื่อพรัตเป็นจัดเชื่อมาบาชนาบากรุบเกลียbà rồi luôn bà nhưng bác mua pan rực tiệp bố chiaประเทศคณะกรรมการរៀបចំការបោះឆ្នោតខេត្តកណ្ដាលបាទតែចេញของតែនេះលេខាធិការខាងនេះកុំផ្សាយតាមហ្នឹងណាអញ្ចឹងកុំផ្សាយតាមហ្នឹងផ្សាយទៅឈ្មោះបានហើយ
watching EAC News. Thank you for joining us. Today, July 23rd, 2023, is the 7th National Assembly election for Cambodia. It's the 7th since Cambodia started multi-party voting in 1993. On the scene in Tak Mau, we have news reporter Anthony Ellis on the scene, who's been speaking to observers and just saw the Prime Minister vote himself. Good morning, Anthony.
Christian, you're correct. The Prime Minister just left after voting and also got a chance to speak to a couple of observers. As you can see behind me now, people are starting to line up and come to do the voting.
Very good. So can you tell us a bit about where you are?
Yeah, we're in the hometown of, where the Prime Minister lives now in, so at the primary school of Bun Rami Hun Sen Primary School in Tak Mau in Kandal Province, where the Prime Minister is residing with the First Lady, which is, it's not that far from Phnom Penh city.
Okay. And so we've been watching footage of one of the rooms at the polling station there. Seems to be moving pretty quickly and efficiently. Have you noticed the same?
Yeah, it's running pretty smoothly. They were prepared early this morning. We arrived here at 5:30. Everything was all ready. The security was around, keeping an eye on the polling booth and the ballot papers. And then at just after 6 o'clock this morning, the observers started arriving to observe, where they checked the ballot box, they checked the seals, they checked around, spoke to a few people around in the area and to make sure there was nothing that seemed to be out of order. And they were happy. For the observers that we did speak to, were happy the way things were handled, the way the ballot paper seals were, everything was still there, the box was still, and the reaction of the people that started lining up early this morning.
All right, so we've noticed a lot of citizens voting. We've got a lot of national and international observers there. I know that the government had deployed a lot of police force to maintain order today. Have you noticed a lot of that around?
Nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, of course, this is where the Prime Minister votes, so there was a little bit of more security than normal polling booths, I suppose, but nothing that you wouldn't see at anywhere else, even back home in Australia, where the Prime Minister of Australia does vote. Obviously, there's going to be a bit higher security, but wasn't as visual that you're thinking, wow, there's too many here. It was just almost like a normal visit from the Prime Minister.
Right, so we did just see him and First Lady Bun Rani cast their votes. Did you notice a shift in energy when he showed up?
Oh, of course, when he arrived, people got excited. The camera crew and the media, of course, swamped him and had a chance. Actually, I got a chance to shake hand and get a selfie with the Prime Minister. So my first selfie with the Prime Minister. So the vibe was upbeat. Everyone was excited to see him. And of course, one of the observers actually asked him as a joke when he shook his hand, who did you vote for? And the Prime Minister had a bit of a laugh and a giggle, and that was it.
Very good. So I noticed he did dip his finger in the indelible ink. The government has ordered 52,000 bottles of that ink. Are people very proud to show off their index fingers today?
Well, you can see there's a little bit left on my fingertip now. So that was done 3 weeks ago. I'm proud to have it on my finger. Yeah, people are coming out of the polling booths holding their finger up, big smiles on the face, just to say, yeah, I've voted, and they're happy.
Very good. So who all have you spoken with this morning in terms of observers? Are they from all around the world?
Yeah, there have been international guests from around the world. We've interviewed the Prime Minister of Guinea-Bissau, Prime Minister Nabim. We also interviewed a delegate who's part of the Senate of Pakistan, and also an international observer who was part of Russia. So we've had three kind of different varieties and parts of the world observers that we've had a chance to talk. And of course they've now moved on to other parts, other polling booths, just to see what's happening around other polling booths, make sure they're not having any troubles and anything else.
Very good. And what are they looking out for, the observers? What is kind of their duty while they're here?
Well, basically, they're looking around the area to make sure there's no one who's trying to entice the local people not to vote or to vote wrong. Then they come inside to the polling station to check the seals, make sure they're sealed, make sure where the people vote is all in order. And, of course, the ballot box, where everyone puts their ballot, is all sealed, make sure there's no problems, check the ink, and just basically have a look around with the people that are waiting to go and vote, make sure they're happy, make sure there is no one doing the wrong thing. So they're scanning around and making sure roughly what people are doing, what they're saying. And of course one of the biggest things they look at is body language, because body language tells us everything. And the body language with everyone here is relaxed. They're happy, the Khmers are waiting to vote, chatting, they're talking about whatever they talk about, maybe who they're voting for or party, or how it's been such organised. The international observers are very impressed the way the flow have gone through and the way everyone is presenting themselves here and the way everything's done. Definitely no problems, and following the laws of the NEC.
Very good. Now back home, Anthony, we do have a lot of restrictions around campaign posters and kind of promoting your party at the polling station. Have you noticed any campaigning going on around the polling station?
I think this is probably one of the best things I do love about voting here in Cambodia. Back at home, when you go and vote, you just have all that propaganda and leaflets, everyone trying to tell you how to vote, giving you these leaflets, this is who you vote for and everything else. Cambodia has none of that. When you come to the polling booths, you just go straight up to the polling booth and you go and vote. You don't need to listen to people trying to entice you to vote for anyone else, giving you a waste of money of pamphlets on this is who you need to vote for, this is the government you need to vote for. You come in, you vote. So compared to back at home in Australia, there is no one outside the gates giving out any propaganda rubbish as in voting, how to vote, who to vote. You come in and you can vote who you want and you feel safe and happy.
Very good. Now we know that Cambodians take their right to vote very seriously, as it's something that they've only recently gained in the last 30 plus years. Have you noticed, is there kind of more of a formal atmosphere in terms of how people are acting, how people are dressing?
Nothing at all. They're just coming down like it's every day. They're dressed how they feel. They've got the kids with them. There's older people. There's no demographic of age limit here. We've got grandmas coming with their grandchildren, just dressed in everyday clothes. It's just like they're doing everything else, taking a bit of time off work, taking a bit of time off their business, leaving home, come and vote, and they'll continue on with their day. At the front of the school here, we have a river. And we've got people doing their aerobics or Tai Chi, and they're running up and down along Riverside. It's just like any other day. So it's just a casual day for the local people.
Very good. Now I know on this side of Phnom Penh this morning it was raining. Have you had any issues there?
This morning when we first got here, I think we had a bit of shower. Only lasted about 5 minutes, but the sun's out now. There's a few clouds, so it's getting a bit hot now. But otherwise, no, it was a 5-minute shower, and which there were people lining up, and it didn't discourage them. But not like on Friday of the last day of the campaign, where we got drenched, we got soaked, and but which still didn't discourage anyone to be in those streets. It brings back a memory. It's fantastic that all these people were marching through the streets in the rain, and particularly Street 169, were people lining up in front of Tulkok High School, and all the apartments up there, people coming out their balconies just to have a look and wave with their Cambodian flags and the CPP flags. It was just like a Mardi Gras, but it was just a campaign of a rally.
Very good. Yes, we have seen that weather is not a deterrent for many Cambodians when they're out to have a good time or fulfill their civic duty.
I think, as you know, living here in Cambodia, even the rainy season, Cambodians can enjoy and dance in the rain. Weather doesn't mean anything to them. It's just part of their everyday life. If it's raining, you'll see the kids playing out in the rain, dancing. Even adults, they're still selling their food. The sellers are out there. Business is still going. Not like back at home. As soon as it's got a bit of rain, everyone runs for shelter and hides. Cambodian day-to-day life is they'll continue on and they'll take it on. I've walked in the streets with floods up to my knees, and there's still people having a good time and doing their sewing. So I don't think rain here plays any particular part in anything they do here in Cambodia. It's part of their life, and they take it on and enjoy it like if it's every day.
Yes, that is something we love about the Cambodian people here. All right,
Yeah.
Anthony. Well, thank you so much. I assume you're going to be staying down at Takamau, seeing if you can talk to more people.
Well, I think we're going to move on so we maybe get a chance to speak to more observers. It's just the local people coming to vote now, which the rest of the crew will get a chance to do a bit of interview. I think Sway Watt, our Cambodian news correspondent, has already done some interviews with some local people, which I think he'll continue on, and then we'll probably move on to see what's happening in other polling booths. So we'll look forward to speaking to you soon, Kristen.
Very good. Thank you so much, Anthony.
Thank you, Kristen.
So yesterday, more than 400 buses transported citizens to the provinces free of charge so that they can vote today. The buses are scheduled to return citizens from the provinces to Phnom Penh tomorrow. The NEC made an appeal on Friday for all citizens, politicians, and media outlets to maintain order during the election weekend. In that spirit, the sale and consumption of alcohol has been banned until tomorrow in an effort to prevent accidents and loss of public order. So today on the scene, we've got EAC News at the Takmal precinct, which is the home precinct of Prime Minister Hun Sen. We just saw the Prime Minister and First Lady Bunrani cast their ballots at the Hun Sen Primary School. They are one of two of just under 10 million Cambodian voters who are registered to vote in today's election. This is the 7th National Assembly election since the country introduced multi-party democracy in 1993. And just over 13 million ballots have been printed for the 9.7 million voters in today's election. The government keeps extra ballots for mistakenly filled out ballots or missing ballots. So the Cambodian People's Party is one of 18 parties on the ballot this year. NEC spokesperson Heng Putia said that over the last 3 weeks of the election campaign, 16 of the 18 parties have been campaigning at polling stations with lists of candidates. So we're watching now people getting registered to vote, or they're already registered. We're watching people check in to vote. In Cambodia, they list the names with a picture and their birth date. They then cross them off. Another way to ensure who has voted and who has not is that voters will dip their finger in indelible ink, which will last about a couple weeks at least, turning their fingers black. People will be showing their index fingers to prove they voted this week. So today, Cambodians will vote for a party rather than an individual. The winning party will then fill the 125 seats in the National Assembly, who will then confirm a prime minister. Currently, the CPP holds all 125 seats in the National Assembly, in addition to the 58 seats in the Senate. National Assembly elections are held every 5 years, while Senate take place every 6. In an interview with Chinese television station Phoenix News on Friday, Prime Minister Hun Sen hinted that his son, General Hun Manet, could be prime minister within the month, depending on the results of the election. He stressed that he would be the one to transfer his power to his successor, and that it would not be for his son's sakes, but for the benefit of the nation and the people of the peace of the country. Prime Minister Hun Sen has been running Cambodia for 38 years under the reigning Cambodian People's Party and is one of the longest-serving leaders in the world. The Prime Minister met with a delegation of 85 of the 333 foreign observers at the Peace Palace yesterday. During the meeting, many of the observers praised the rapid growth of political and economic development, especially in regards to high-rise buildings and better living conditions. Following the observers' statements, the Prime Minister explained the election system in Cambodia, which is held regularly every 5 years. He insisted that it shows a country that practices democracy, where political parties have 5 years to prepare to participate in the election. The Prime Minister also praised Cambodia's current voting system implemented under the Paris Agreement, which he credits for putting an end to the Khmer Rouge's power in the 90s. Among the international observers in today's election are the Prime Minister of Guinea-Bissau, the Speaker of the Malaysian Parliament, and members of the Universal Peace Federation and International Association of Parliamentarians for Peace, among others. The government's Ministry of Information organized workshops for the observers this weekend, and so far everyone has seemed content that Cambodia is hosting a free and fair election. Yesterday morning, more than 400 buses transported citizens to the provinces free of charge so that they can vote today. The buses are scheduled to return citizens from the provinces to Phnom Penh tomorrow. The NEC made an appeal on Friday for all citizens, politicians, and media outlets to maintain order during the election weekend. The sale and consumption of alcohol has been banned until tomorrow in an effort to prevent accidents and loss of public order. So we're watching now. People are checking in to vote at the Takmal precinct at the Hun Sen Primary School. You're seeing just one room of many rooms that are in the school to assist voters, each of which has about 2 voting booths. So people will go in, select their party. With this year, they can choose any symbol they like that doesn't give away their identity. So check mark, X mark, a heart will even work. Just as long as it doesn't give away the voter's identity, they are allowed to use whichever symbol they like to select their party. The CPP is listed as number 18 on this year's ballot. It is the final party listed on the ballot. And again, voters can use whichever symbol they like to select their party this year. So the NEC has printed 13 million ballots for the election, in which about 9.7 million Cambodians are eligible to vote. They are paper ballots with the party's symbol and name listed on them. There will be a box to the left of it in which voters can put whichever symbol they like to select their party. So we see people checking in. They go to vote. Behind the little green box is the voting booth, and then they will put their paper ballot into a sealed box. After doing that, they're dipping their finger in indelible ink to show that they have voted and to prevent them from voting again. The NEC bought 52,000 bottles of indelible ink this year to distribute to the provinces and capital administrations. The ink came from India, and they spent almost $1 million on it. Our own news reporter, Anthony Ellis, actually tested out the ink a few weeks ago. He's still getting some off his fingernail, he says. So it is definitely, it makes its mark, the ink. Starts out purple and ends in black. So Prime Minister Hun Sen has been running Cambodia for 38 years under the reigning Cambodia's People's Party. He's one of the longest serving leaders in the world. He met with a delegation of 85 of the 333 foreign observers at the Peace Palace yesterday. During the meeting, many of the observers praised the rapid growth of political and economic development, especially in regards to high-rise buildings and better living conditions in Cambodia. Following the observers' statements, the Prime Minister explained the election system in Cambodia, which is held regularly every 5 years. He insisted that this shows that the country practices democracy, where political parties have 5 years to prepare to participate in the election. The Prime Minister also praised his country's current voting system implemented under the Paris Agreement, which he credits for putting an end to the Khmer Rouge's power in the 1990s. Among the international observers in today's election are the Prime Minister of Guinea-Bissau, the Speaker of the Malaysian Parliament, members of Parliament from Pakistan, members of the Universal Peace Federation and its associated International Association of Parliamentarians for Peace. The government's Ministry of Information organized workshops for the observers, and so far, everyone has seemed content that Cambodia is hosting a free and fair election. In fact, we've had EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis on the scene, who has talked to some of the international observers, gotten their opinions, and they see things running very smoothly. They have not reported any incidents, and they noted that people seem to be happy to vote today. The NEC made an appeal on Friday for all citizens, politicians, and media outlets to maintain order during the election weekend. In that spirit, the sale and consumption of alcohol has been banned until tomorrow in an effort to prevent accidents and loss of public order. So today, July 23rd, 2023, is Cambodia's 7th National Assembly election since the country introduced multi-party elections in 1993. Prime Minister Hun Sen will be just one of under 10 million registered voters expected to participate in today's election. He returned home to his precinct in Tak Mau with his wife, First Lady Bun Rani, to cast their votes in today's election. His reigning Cambodian People's Party, or CPP, is one of 18 parties on this year's ballot, many of which only had their first National Assembly run in the last election held in 2018. So right now on the scene, we've got EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis. Good morning, Anthony.
Good morning again, Christian.
Anthony, what's going on at the Hun Sen Primary School in Tak Mau?
Take some.
Yeah, at the moment.
Hello, Anthony.
Check 1 2 1 2. Okay. Good morning, Christian. Good morning, Christian. Sorry.
Good morning, Anthony.
Yeah, we're at the here school at the Bunrami Hun Sen Primary School here in Taka. Things we're wrapping up now. The Prime Minister's ready to come to vote. So all that's happening now is just the local people coming to the polling booth station just to cast their votes. So it's seemed to quieten down a little bit. As you can see behind me now, people are still lining up. There's still people coming around to come and vote.
Very good. So is everybody just calm? Are there lines, or is it pretty minimal?
It's pretty minimal now. It's just a steady flow of people coming. They have until 3 p.m. this afternoon to vote. So people are just starting to stroll in and just casually walk in. We've got a good range of age groups here. I've seen a few people look like they're just 18, so this is their first time of voting, and just having a quick chat with them. They're excited to be able to vote for the first time, and they're happy to go through the process of voting.
Very good.
So, as we've already spoken, we've already interviewed some international observers.
Yes, so I saw you interviewed people from Russia, people from Pakistan, and the Prime Minister of Guinea-Bissau. How did the Prime Minister feel about today's elections?
He was happy with today. He was impressed the way things were going, for what he saw. There was a lot of attention from media on the Prime Minister, and we were lucky enough to get an interview with him. And he was impressed the way things were done, and everything seems to be going according to the law. The security tags in the right places, everything else was seen to be put in place, and how freely things were. The way people were able to go and vote, there was not a large amount of people gathering. Everyone were lining up quite ordinary, and just seemed very casual. The same thing come from the Senate of the Pakistani government. He also said that he was impressed the way things have changed here. Also the Russian delegate who was here in 2018, I think he said, and the three of them expressed how much democracy has changed here in Cambodia from where they've gone 30 odd years ago, which was unsettled. It was wasn't sure which way things were going. I mean, it was only just nearly 50 years ago with the Pol Pot regime that ruled the country where people were too scared to do anything. Now it's you can see the democracy of the people are just happy to vote. There's no force there. They're happy to be here, happy to put their finger into the ink, to place that tick or the cross on that ballot paper to vote for whoever they wanted, whomever they want to win for the government and to continue moving Cambodia forward as the way the country is going.
Very good. Now, I did notice when the Prime Minister was there about half an hour ago, there's a lot of media partners there. Is there still a lot of media around?
A lot of media are packed up and they're moving on. The same as what we'll do, they'll go to other polling booths to have a look. And of course, get ready for 3 o'clock when the polling booths actually officially close and the counting begins. We'll be out later on this afternoon at polling booths to see how things and the way they are counting to make sure everything's fine.
In Takmau in the Kandal province, we've just seen the Prime Minister and his wife, First Lady Bunrani, who have cast their votes in the 7th National Assembly election for Cambodia. It's the 7th election that they've had since establishing a multi-party democracy in 1993. They hold National Assembly elections every 5 years, while Senate elections run every 6 years. Currently, the Cambodian People's Party holds all 125 seats of the National Assembly and all 58 seats of the Senate. So Prime Minister Hun Sen has met with many of the international observers for this election, who we continue to see at the polling stations, and hopefully we'll be able to speak more with this afternoon. So stay tuned. You're watching EAC News.